Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Sky Sports Golf Podcast. Hope you're all doing well. If you're listening on the audio podcast, brilliant. But if you're watching, hi everyone, we're in the vodcast studio for the Players' Championship preview special. It's also available on YouTube as well as Sky Sports Golf. You know what, this was all going to be Players' Championship, but so much has happened in the past few days in the world of golf that we're just going to step away maybe from the Players and Sawgrass for the first half of the programme. I should mention we've got the world number one, Scottie Scheffler, interview later on, not here in the studio as much as my guests would love it. I spoke to him last week, just before he won the Arnold Palmer, funnily enough, so that's coming on a bit later. But I have got two world-class ball strikers here in the studio with me, Andrew Coltart, David Howell. Hello.
Hello, so you spoke to him before he won?
I know. I'm the good luck omen.
Well, that's just the wrong time, isn't it? You spoke to him after.
I made him relax. I made him obviously putt well. I gave him some putting tips.
You went with world-class... Did you say ball strikers?
Yes.
I thought you were going to say broadcasters, but no.
Definitely not.
You couldn't get those either.
Absolutely not. No. How you
couple
both...
of duffers in the corner.
How you both been? You both been playing some golf? I've noticed recently on Instagram.
Well, I've been very busy. I don't know, you might have didn't hear it. Last week we were working at the Arnold Palmer Invitational.
Well, you say working.
Yeah, absolutely.
You played a Sunningdale?
I had a couple of games. Yeah, that'll be it now for about another 4 months or something like that.
The sticks go away again.
Well, no, they definitely go away when the rain's coming down.
Howler?
I played Hindhead last week. What a golf course that is.
Okay.
My Mashi golf clan down there. We had a great day. What a golf course. Peter Ellis was a member there. I can understand why. It's absolutely stunning. I played brilliantly as always. And had to leave before the prize presentation, sadly, to come to work, which was annoying. But I assume there's a trophy waiting for me.
It will be, somewhere. Yeah, I think so. I think it's coming in a bit later on into the studio. Look, there's so much to talk about. As I said, this is a Players' Championship special, everyone. But there's two brilliant wins we've got to look back on first. And I want to go to the DP World Tour because this is maybe extra special and maybe one of the stories of the year. Matteo Manassero, first win in 11 years. He was a four-time winner on DP World Tour at the age of 20. Last win was the BMW. And then last week in South Africa just produced brilliance, especially the last four holes. He was ranked, I've got so many notes here, everyone, today, 1,805th in the world. Went to the Alps Tour, quit golf for a while as well, grinded his way back to the Challenge Tour, won twice last year, and then wins last week. Andrew, where does this rank in stories maybe so far this year for you?
Well, it's great. We've had a lot of good stories this year, with Jake Knapp over the PGA Tour as well, Austin Eckroyd, Camilo Villegas last year. Yeah, this is a sensational story because I think Manassero was incredibly well respected even in his youthfulness and also admired and really well liked. It would be... A lot of people don't come back from those depths that he'd fallen to. Very, very sad to see, given how high and how rich his game was for a period of time. So to come all the way back from that says a tremendous amount about the young man.
Howler, you would have played with him a lot, I'm assuming. But what he's been through, I'm guessing it would have broken most people, most golfers.
Indeed. I mean, 4 tournaments before you're 20, good tournaments. He played well. I think whether his first one was down there in Valencia at Sergio's home club, Club de Mediterranean, beautiful golf course there in the almost like an old volcano. It's beautiful. But it was a great win.
We watch a bit of Manassero's final 4 holes on... he thought this one was in the water, Howler. I'm pretty sure he did because the smile afterwards said it all. But under the gun, under the pressure with all the pack there chasing him, to birdie the last 4...
Oh, remarkable. Absolutely. Here's the one at 16. Look, in it goes. Low scoring. Had to keep going, keep the foot to the floor all the way to the end. And what a shot, Andrew, to hit to the last here.
Yeah, this was incredible. And bear in mind, they were hauled off for, a couple of hours, weren't they? And for him to still be able to come back out there knowing when he's almost got the job done, but he's not, and he still can't afford to make any mistakes. And the chasers were still chasing hard. They were going at him, making him do that. It was incredible. Everybody's just so happy for the young man.
The manner of those 4 birdies and that final wedge shot and the 3-wood off the tee and the putt, that was going to stand him in... He hasn't limped across the line. It's going to stand him in such good stead the next time he is in the hunt for a championship. And expect him to go forward from here. Maybe not get to the top 10 in the world, which is where we thought he might be travelling when he first came out on tour, but to have a really, really high-quality pro career from here on whichever tour He ends up playing on it. Obviously, as we know, the pathway onto the PGA Tour from the DP World Tour. You never know. Could we see Matteo Manassero playing, week in, week out, somewhat on the PGA Tour next year? Very possibly after a performance like that.
What can we learn, Andrew, from his past? He got to 25 in the world, number 25. Then he tried to chase distance and completely lost control of his swing. Maybe the putting as well, looking from last week. What can we learn from that?
Yeah, it's interesting because we talk about coaching and things like that. First of all, it's indicative of the typical pursuit a top golfer will make is they look at the game and think about what they've got to do to improve. We saw with several high profile players as well to win the Masters. You've got to draw it to win the Masters. Lee Westwood was a prodigious fader of the golf ball. So was Martin Keimer. Somebody comes along and says, "Well, you can't win here unless you draw it." Well, I think Nicklaus found a way of doing that at Augusta quite successfully, didn't he? I think one of the dangers here is coaching's all great when you look at it on paper. Before you embark on a change with any professional golfer at any level, you have to have a complete and utter understanding of where that potentially could take them, because in the coach's mind it's always like a positive. It's always, we're going to do this and you're going to be longer, you're going to be better, you're going to be more consistent, you're going to do it this way. That's fine if it works, and it doesn't always work. And if it doesn't work, that's an indication of actually where you can disappear to. And some people might not come back from situations like that. I think Luke Donald also, when he was world's number one, sought distance off the tee, and you're kind of scratching your head going, hang on, a bit like Hovland at the minute, I've got to do something with my golf swing. Hang on, you've reached the top, you're at the top, you don't need to do anything different. You're going to have fluctuations, just take that on board and deal with that instead.
Can't believe Hoffer's trying to change coaches all of a sudden after winning the Tour Championship. Yeah. Go on, Howler.
Well, not change his swing.
No, he thinks golf's not great.
Golf's not a static thing. You don't just have a game and that's it. You use that for 20 years of your career. Everyone's working on something in some way, shape, or form throughout their career on a weekly basis. The problem with chasing distance is, funny enough, James Morrison, you're not quite as heralded as Manassero or Luke Donald, but I remember he was the straightest hitter on tour when he first came out, and I remember he won, and I'm going to try and find another 10 yards. Same with Manassero, perhaps. Yes, to get to the top, world's number one position, maybe he needs another 20 yards in his locker. But sometimes the golf doesn't give you everything, but it did give him accuracy. And you start off when you chase distance. Okay, well, can we find you 10 more yards? Absolutely. Now, you will miss 2 more fairways around. So just to start off, you're going to hit 2 fairways less around, because it never gives you more length and you hit it straighter. It doesn't work that way. So you have to be prepared to play from the rough more often. That in itself is a change in mindset. Do you want to be a bomb and gouge guy? You've learnt the game as someone who's going to craft your way around a golf course trying to find the left half or right half of the fairway. Completely different way of thinking, and it undid for Matteo. But fortunately, he's got back to what he does well, and he's right back to where he once was. Forget the last 5 years now. Let's move on.
A really popular guy, I should say, on tour as well, Matteo. Yeah.
Oh, really popular. Yeah. Just lovely in every single way. Humble, nice, charming, good lad. Everyone on tour will be pleased to see him playing well.
Yeah, good to see him playing.
I think he was obviously buoyed with the huge rugby success that Italy had over Scotland.
I wasn't going to bring the rugby up.
I think that was a massive attribute in his final 4-hole surge to victory. Definitely.
That's nice of you to bring it up, Andrew.
Well,
well done.
I'm disappointed for the Scots, but I was delighted to see the Italians. They bring an awful lot to any tournament that they pitch up in.
Oh, that's nice of Andrew to bring that up. I had that in my notes, but he's done it already. Everyone. Another person. It's sort of a comeback in sorts. 51 weeks without a win for Scottie Scheffler, which is pretty amazing. And watch out, everyone. Scottie Scheffler can putt all of a sudden again. I mean, we could have showed a lot of Scheffler putts, to be honest, on Sunday. But all aspects of his game, I mean, look great. He's unbeatable when he's like this, isn't he?
He is pretty much. He's so confident. He's taking more club off the tee there than some. Straight down the middle of the wedges always seem to go close. They leave him that 10-foot range. Finally, the putter's working.
Yeah, I think that it's the reaction here when this one goes in, I think tells you a lot. He's now starting to relish being on the greens. Wait to see this. It wasn't just, I've got this.
That's rare. You see Scheffler do that.
I know. Goodness me. This is tough to say given the fact the guy's been number one for the last 2 years, but everything's just starting to blossom.
Oh, players this week, Masters around the corner, US Open's not far away, and a new beard as well for Scheffler. Maybe that's the key as well. Weird to see Scottie Scheffler with a beard like that. Shane Lowry, quite jealous. Red Cardi too.
Yeah, it's funny because there's also this has created quite a bit of conjecture as well on the social platforms because typically Rory, has actually said that trying to help him and scratching my head here. I go back to the legends that played the game just as I was coming out on tour. Your Seves, your Woosies, your Faldos, those guys. They wouldn't have given anybody something to go away and work on that would help them. They kept it all to themselves. Steely-eyed, hard-nosed, real tough nuts. They'd stare you to death on that first tee, and yet, here's Rory offering up some advice. Tiger even, they just have found a way of saying nothing, but saying something actually meaning nothing. And Rory actually, try this. It's a little bit more forgiving. Bang! All of a sudden, he just wipes the floor.
I think it's helpful for Rory though. Sure, Scottie's taken another stride away from him in terms of the world rankings, and he's got another big title under his belt. Rory's still got the 4 majors. Scottie's only got the 1. But Rory doesn't want to limp over the line to be perceived as the world's number 1 player again. He wants to be far out and away the best player. He's more dynamic than Scottie Scheffler, isn't he? He's got that Scottie can't keep up with him off the tee. But Rory needs to be inspired, I think, this stage in his career, and he wants to really feel like he's the best player in the world. If he was in the number 1 spot right now, I don't think he'd feel worthy because he's so far behind where he has been, and he wants to be the best version of himself. And Scottie's going to have to make him work for it and try and find that again, within McIlroy to really believe it, be it, and show it on a weekly basis. And he's not there at the moment.
Scheffler's putting, from what you saw, you both worked last week watching it, will it last, or was it, as you said, just a good week on the greens on the right course?
Well, those putting stats won't last. He's not going to go from the worst putter to the best putter on a weekly basis. I don't sure he's necessarily got that natural gift of putting. But listen, his technique looked great last week. He read the putts well. He kept holding out, do the simple things well. If you can hold the 5-6 footers slightly more often than he normally does. But there's no reason why he can't continue to stroke the ball that well. Some weeks he'll read the greens better than others, of course, but that's the same for everybody, isn't it? But I don't think it takes more than 1 or 2 more weeks of just normal putting, and then we stop talking about it. The moment we all stop talking about Scottie's putting, unless something strange goes with the rest of his game, he's going to be dominantly at the top of the world rankings for quite some time, I think, because he's so good at everything else. Yeah,
look, it never lasts. It's certainly not if you've got a career of 20 years. That's for sure. It might last through the Masters again, though. I think one of the things you've got to factor in here, we're talking about a person who's every other aspect of his game was A+++, and the putter was working at a D. And now all of a sudden he's starting to see the golf ball go in. So when he walked onto the greens and he was like, just going to 2-putt this, they're going to be moaning about my putting all the time. But now he's walking onto the greens going, hey, I'm having fun here. And he's getting rewarded for all the quality golf that he's playing on top of the financial gain that he's getting. This guy potentially now is about as confident as he's ever been in his life. And that confidence, along with the technical ability that he possesses and everything like, should worry a lot of people.
It comes down simply, really, with putting. Can you get to the place where you like putting? Okay. Rory loves ripping it off the tee. Rory was talking about the fact that he's, sorted his putting woes out. He's not particularly high up in the putting stats this year, by the way. Scottie Scheffler's putting has been better than Rory's this year statistically on the PGA Tour.
Poor, yeah.
So he's been poor. But Rory, he's saying last week at Riviera or a couple of weeks ago, I've broken the back of it. I'm a good putter now. He's enjoying putting, so he says, and I'm sure he is. If you can, some players love getting on the green. I was one of them. 30-footer. Oh, great! Come on, love it. Did I love a 4-footer downhill left to right? Well, no one does. Nor did Andrew. But if Scottie Scheffler can just get to the point where he is looking forward to standing on each green when he walks on, and has got the right attitude, even if it misses, watch out.
Yeah, well, I think he's getting there. I think you could see that last week with some of these putts. That, it almost as the round progressed, they almost started holding longer putts, but not from those putts that you go, well, I know he'd hold that one. He can't hold the 6-footer, but from the point of the putts almost were directly proportional to the confidence building. Here's a 12-footer, then a 15-footer, then 80, then a 20-footer.
Yeah, and it's to use the word momentum. You never see anyone punch in the air off the tee, do you? Well, why not? A great drive down a tough par 4 it might be a shot gained on the field or half a shot. It's only what a 10-footer or a 20-footer is. It's always the putt or the chip that gives everyone. That's the moment that you gain the shot, isn't it? Do what you want, fairway to green. That's the moment. Scottie was going weeks without that boost of energy, the mojo, because you've holed the putt. If he starts getting that uplift as well on top of everything else, and he's now coming in to undoubtedly potentially the most profitable moment in his golfing career. This next 1-2 years, he's got it. He won't be this good forever. There's no way he's going to continue to hit it this well for 10 years. He's doing it right now. At some stage, it'll tail off. Now's the time to strike.
Just for people who may not be know much about Scheffler, since the 1st of January 2022, he's had 50 starts, 8 wins, 3 missed cuts, 33 top 10s, 21 top 3s, 119 rounds in the 60s, and his last round over par was August the 26th last year. One more thing on Scheffler. How surprising or impressed are you that despite all his struggles on the greens, how the rest of his game hasn't faltered at all, and maybe has got better?
Yeah, it's remarkable, actually, that it will have affected some of the shots, but we don't see it. We've seen a bit of frustration from him. It's been very good mentally to just keep going and say we're all talking about it all the time. You miss another putt, to keep going and hit the next one to 8 feet as well and miss it again. A bit like Langer. Langer had famously actually had the yips, and Scottie's never had the yips. Far from it. But he had the ability as well to just keep doing and compartmentalize it as almost as a separate part of the game, and he's done that. He's done that very well. But if he can merge it all as one feel-good golfing game, then it could be remarkable what he could do.
Last week, before he even started at Bay Hill, I had 10 minutes, luckily, to catch up with him, talk about the players last year and how he's been playing this year so far. Enjoy. Okay, everyone, it's not every day you get to speak to the world number 1 in the world of golf and also the current Players Champion. A very early morning to Scottie Scheffler from Sawgrass. Morning, Scottie.
Yep, good morning.
How are you? It's an early start there. I know you've got a busy day.
Yeah, we're just getting things rolling. So you're my first victim of the day.
Primed. Scottie, I'm going to get straight into it. 2024, how do you rate your year so far?
Let's see. We've played played a few tournaments. I've had some decent starts. I think there's some things I can improve on, but overall, I think I'm off to a pretty solid start to the year. I would have liked to have been closer to the lead a few more times, but I had a chance in Phoenix, and I had a good start at Century that I wasn't able to finish off, but give myself a few opportunities to start the year.
Yeah, it's been a very good start. So results-wise, Scottie, pretty damn good. Let's go back to last year. You bossed the players last year, I'm going to say. 1 by 5 from Tyrrell. You got hot in the middle of that final round as well. It was your 6th victory on the PGA Tour. Look, I know you won the Masters in 2022, but where does last year's players' victory rank in terms with you, how happy you were with your performance over the 4 days?
Yeah, I was extremely pleased. I think it was a week in which, it was strange. I think going into the final round, it was a bit of a different feeling than the Masters was, just because going into the Masters, I'd only won 3 times. Granted, I think I had gotten to number 1 in the world at that point, but I don't really know. It was such a quick rise to kind of get to number 1, and then all of a sudden you flash forward to March of last year, and going into the final round, it was. I think Minwoo and I were maybe tied, and or maybe I had one shot. I don't even remember, but I think Minwoo and I had extended ourselves by a few shots from the rest of the field, and then I think we were all pretty much being close to tied. Like I may have been one ahead or tied with a few other guys when we got to number 8, and then all of a sudden I was able to build up that lead and hold on to it. So in terms of the performance last year, I was just really proud of how I finished off the tournament. Having that good stretch in the middle of the round, and then the weather actually got pretty challenging towards the end of the round last year, and so I just kind of hung in there, made a bunch of pars, and did what I needed to do to win the tournament.
Before that, you went miscut 55th, then win. That's a big jump from 55th to win, Scottie. What's the main thing you felt you had to work out and learn around that Pete Dye layout?
I mean, it's just a place where you have to play really good. I mean, it's one of those courses where you kind of know what to do. You got to manage your way around the golf course. But at the same time, if you're not hitting it well, you can't really play this place that well. And it doesn't really suit one style of play. It just suits somebody who's playing really good golf. And I think that's what's so special about the golf course. I think that's why you see different winners every year. And, there hasn't been one player that's won on this golf course a bunch of times. It's a golf course that challenges us every year in different ways. And, whether it's weather or course conditions, stuff like that, it's a challenging place. And when you're playing well, you get rewarded for it. And if you're not, then you're going to get pretty severely punished around this place.
Obviously, Scottie, you were the star of the show really last year, but one person that stole the show, I'm going to say, was your grandmother, Mary, who walked all 72 holes with you. I can't believe how quick she was walking as well. Be quicker than I would walk as well. I'm going to ask, is she going to be there this year?
She'll be around for sure. Yeah. She lives about 20 minutes from here. And yeah, I saw a few of the videos of the pace she was walking at, and I'm pretty sure she sat down a lot less than I would sit down if I was out there watching golf. So yeah, we're very proud of her efforts last year. This is breaking news, Scottie. I've just heard that she made some kind of special dessert for you after you won and you went back after your victory. Can you explain? Well, Grandma is the queen of desserts. So she's famous at our house for her pancakes and then for all her desserts. And one of my favorites is the chocolate cream pie that she makes. And so they did a little fun deal here last night when we got in. The chef here made us his rendition of Grandma's pie, and it was really good as well. And I think they'll have something special during the tournament. But yeah, Grandma's queen of the desserts.
Hers is better than his, though, I'm assuming.
Of course.
always. Yeah. The other thing, Scottie, is you look at your wins. You don't win small events. I mean, Phoenix you won twice. You could argue that's almost an elevated event now, even though it's not classed as one. Arnold Palmer, match play, Masters and the Players. Do you find you can almost rev yourself up for those big events?
I think so. I think that it's exciting when I know that we're getting all the best players together. And I think mentally it kind of takes me to a little bit of a different place. And so when you step up on the first tee and, you're playing beside the best players in the world, I think it's a bit of a different feeling. And it's something that excites me as a competitor. And, I think that's why you see some good results from me in the bigger events, and that's something that I'm obviously going to hope to continue on as my career moves forward.
There's plenty more on the horizon. Over the last 2 years, Scottie, your strokes gained numbers, some of them are so insane, another world they are. You're number 4 for strokes gained around the green, number 1 for approach, and number 2 off the tee. Tee to green, your second best figure to that pesky Tiger Woods. Do you sometimes surprise yourself just how good you play tee to green?
Do I surprise myself? I'm sure occasionally, sometimes. But it's something that I've obviously worked on a bunch, and I've really tried to improve my body to be in a place where I can play week in, week out without really, feeling aches and pains. And I put a lot of work into the game, so it's nice to see those results. I mean, that's something that I take a lot of pride in. I think that's why you've seen such consistent results out of me the last few years. And I put a lot of work into it. So, but yeah, sometimes I surprise myself. And, like last year, I think was a good example of a week in which, at this tournament, I really just hit the ball really good the whole week. And my swing felt great. And, I was hitting a lot of fairways, hitting a lot of greens, and getting a lot of looks. And then I didn't really extend myself in the tournament on Friday, but just the consistent, just playing really solid each round and, kind of earned me a victory here. And so yeah, it's definitely nice to be able to hit the ball really good, but you got to keep working at it.
As you say, you put in so much practice with Randy Smith, and I know there will be listeners and watchers here who are trying to find the secret to golf. Can you tell us some of your swing thoughts Because your ball striking is just elite, Scotty.
Yeah, so I'd say Randy really does a good job of me kind of keeping my expectations low of what the ball's going to do and just trying to control what I can control. And that's always going back to fundamentals. So I use that grip training club. I always practice with my alignment sticks down on the driving range. And usually if something's off, it's something in my setup. And basically just try and get everything right over the ball to give yourself the best chance to hit a good shot. And I think Randy's done a really good job of keeping things simple for me over the years. So when I think of swing thoughts, I try not to have too many. And I'm sure if you've seen my swing before, I wouldn't say it's the most technically sound golf swing, with the feet sliding, moving all over the place. Yeah, it's my swing.
You spoke about the players there, about playing against best players in the world. Look, I'm not going to go too deep here into live and all of that. There's another time for that, Scotty. But do you miss facing the likes of Rahm, Hatton, Bryson on a more regular basis than probably going to see him at the majors?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, John was one of my favorite people to play against. We had some good battles throughout the years, and I was pretty surprised that he decided to take the money and leave. But yeah, there's definitely aspects of that. I got a lot of good friends over there. Brooks left, DJ left, and I definitely miss seeing a lot of those guys. They were a big part of kind of my life out here on tour, and it's still a bit weird that they're not around. But we'll see what happens in the future. But yeah, I definitely miss competing against some of those guys.
Makes your job easier to get titles though, Scotty. I guess those guys not playing as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those deals. It's just kind of a strange time in the game of golf, and like a lot of the guys that left early were a bit, kind of in the later years of their career, and they made their decisions. But I have no ill feelings towards any of the guys. But yeah, we're just in a weird state of the game.
Yeah. Look, last question, and then I'm done, Scotty. If whatever's going to happen, I've got no idea when it's going to all happen. Let's say the players came back like nothing ever happened. How would that be perceived, do you think, by players on the PGA Tour? Not necessarily you, but by the PGA Tour in general.
By the PGA Tour, if nothing happened and if they came back like nothing happened, I think it'd be a bit strange because when guys were thinking about leaving and this tour kind of came about, there was lifetime bans and stuff like that were thrown around. And so if they came back like nothing ever happened, I think it would not be popular among the membership. But we'll see what happens in the next couple of years. Who knows what's going to happen in the world of golf? Things just keep changing. So I just do my best to try and stay in my own lane and try and play tournaments.
Yeah, they're just changing every day at the moment, the golf world, Scotty. Look, Scotty, I really appreciate your time. I know you got a mad busy day. We didn't even get into pickleball or anything like that. So I'd love maybe another time. We've got a bit more time for you to come on later in the year, possibly, if you've got a spare 10 minutes to come back on again, possibly if you've won the Masters again, or the Arnold Palmer as well. I know you've got one of those cardigans already. So, Scotty, I really appreciate your time. Have a great week at the Players. Enjoy your defense as well.
Awesome. Thanks, George. Appreciate it.
I think everyone else can go home. I think if Scotty can putt all of a sudden, watch out, everyone. We're going to talk now about some comments made by a couple of players last week. I wasn't going to include this in the podcast, but it came up over the weekend. First, let's talk about Rory's comments. I think they were made Friday. He was asked by journalists and the media about the path forward in professional golf. And Rory said, this is what he said, "I'm all for making it more cutthroat, more competitive. Probably won't be very popular for saying this, but I'm all for less players and less tour cards and the best of the best and trying to give pathways to the younger generation. So through Corn Ferry Tour, through the PGA Tour U, I just feel there's a lot of categories on tour that people are sort of still benefiting off what they did like 5 or 10 years ago. I feel like as the most competitive professional golf tour in the world, you should have to come out and prove yourself year after year after year." Those are the first comments. We'll come on to Wyndham Clark in a moment. He reacted off those Rory's comments. Andrew, what was your initial reaction after hearing Rory? As honest as ever?
Yeah. My initial reaction to that is it kind of contradicts himself in everything. He's talking about being more ruthless, and yet he's, where people have got to scrap hard for every pound, shilling, and pence that's out there, and yet he buys into these signature events where the limited fields down to 50, no cut. I can't quite see the relationship there. Why agree to these no cut events, of which there's 5 of them in the signature events this year, and the top end get all the money, and then where's the pathway for the youngsters to get into those events? I don't want to see that. Yes, I think there's far too many exempt players on both both of the major tours. But it's crucial that there's a pathway all the way up. But I'm not sure I buy into this. We'll close shop, which they did with the WGCs. They're starting to do it now, and we'll play for the large pots of money because we deserve it. Because at some point, some of these other kids, like, you know, your Nick Dunlaps, your Jake Knapp, whatever, some of these kids are going to need to come up through and need to be in there. And it just creates a certain situation where somebody whose career is coming to an end can loiter in about that group because he's earned too much money, too many world ranking points, rather than just fall out as swiftly as he maybe got in there. I think if that situation arises, then I'm all for it. But this idea of somebody just lingering for a couple of years because of the points they've accrued over the last, because nobody can compete against them, I don't kind of like that.
Off the back of that, Eamon Lynch, journalist based in America, he goes, if you're going to be cutthroat, what exactly do you do with that Tiger guy who hasn't won in a while? I mean, Tiger just gets exemptions, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I look at some of the things in the periphery. I think the players are far too friendly because they've all got far too much money. There's not the pressure on them to put a roof over their head. All the they're playing for $4 million first prize. You finish second, you still get over $2 million. You know, way back in the 70s and 80s, you know, people were playing literally to put a roof over their head. That was when the much used line now, and I'm just doing it for my family. That was when you were doing it for your family. Nowadays, you're not doing it for your family. Nowadays, there's almost not the desire to go out there and practice and try to work harder to be better.
Well, funnily enough, on that vein, the DP World Tour, which is undoubtedly, I mean, we mentioned it this week in South Africa when Matteo won, it was a 16th of the prize fund, you know. But the story, you mentioned it was a great story. Yeah. It was a great final hole. Matteo, brilliant. And there are people absolutely trying to put the roof on the terraced house, you know, playing on the DP World Tour. They haven't even got, there's lots of guys that don't own a house, you know, and you come down and that's quite nice sporting wise. I think a lot of people,
the Cinderella story,
like watching that gritty, actually these guys are trying to pay their way through life. At a normal living level. They're not trying to be multimillionaires, a lot of them. Everyone would love to be, wouldn't they? But actually, it's how I earn my living. It's how I earn my X amount a year, and it's pressurised way of doing it. And I think there's still something to appreciate on the DP World Tour at our smaller events, and that is what a lot of these guys are doing. The jeopardy is, can I afford to get there, play this week? I've missed 3 cuts in a row. I'm 10 grand down. I really need it this week. I need 5 grand coming in. And that still exists on our tour.
Well, you got Joe Dean from, was it Kenya the other week? He came second. He was a Morrison's delivery driver the week before. He couldn't afford the travel out to the events before that. And so I think Kenya was his second event.
It's more relatable. Yeah. These are more relatable. You know, I get this idea that people want to see the best playing all the time. But they're getting to this stage where it's so much money, you know, and finishing second doesn't matter to them. That there's a potential people will lose interest in that. You know, it was a little bit like, remember the Formula One when the same guy kept on winning all the time? You know, the numbers dropped off in viewing figures and stuff like that. We had Nick Dunlap win the American Express this year. More people tuned in to watch an amateur winning in the professional and the PGA Tour than they did John Ram winning the previous time before. And John Ram was top 2 or 3 in the world at the time.
It's funny how the world of golf's gone, isn't it? Because if you just go back...
Yes, indeed, you could say that.
Funny, ironic. About 4 or 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we had the DP World Tour, which was going on quite nicely. We had the PGA Tour, which was great, probably the promised land for a lot of people still. And we had the World Golf Championship events that encapsulated the best from all the tours around the world that you know, with 5 or 6 times a year when Tiger was winning all those. I think most people would agree during that era they were a step above everything else, maybe apart from them, obviously below the majors and alongside the players. There was your 7 or 8, and then you had your Arnold Palmers and your Rivieras and your BMW PGAs. And it all stacked up quite nicely, and it didn't feel to me like anything really was broken in the world of golf. The pathways were there. It was all good, and somehow. For a few different decisions and a few different entities coming into it, it's all changed. It was kind of all there, as needed, in my opinion, and that's not where we are today.
So now I mentioned Wyndham Clark. He was asked 24 hours later to react to Rory's comments. Wyndham said, "I think it would be amazing if our tour was 100 guys. Every year we have 20 guys that get relegated every time, every year. It doesn't matter who you are. I think it's just nice to elevate the product and make it to where the best players are playing on TV more often and against each other." We should say Wyndham Clark in 2020 was 112th in the FedEx Cup rankings. Mm-hmm. So you could argue that Wyndham would not have won the US Open, wouldn't have been where he is now if his ideas were in play then.
Be careful what you wish for. Yes. Listen, I personally, I think the best elevated event this year, the signature event we're calling them now, aren't we? That's what they're called.
Yes.
It will be the Players' Championship. I think it'll be the best one. It's the full field. It's 156 guys. Some of the stars will miss the cut. They won't be there at the weekend. We won't care about that when it comes to Sunday afternoon and someone's coming down that final famous hole. This will be the best one. And it will be the full field. So I don't quite buy into the small field thing. If you're a top player, I get it. You want to... Lovely, isn't it? 65 players, 60 players, guaranteed money all the time, huge. Everything's easier when there's less people around, less people to beat. I'm not so sure that makes golf any better. I've got to be honest.
There's an interesting sense that a lot of our top players are a little bit frustrated at how much money those a lot further down the rankings and the tours are making, because they feel that they're making that money because of the incredible success that they themselves have had as an individual, rather than the success necessarily of the game as a whole. And I'm just, you've made gazillions at this game. I'm just a little bit conflicted as to why that would be. Not sort of just happy for them that opportunity is there. I'm
going to come on to a few tweets that I saw on X, on Twitter, from fellow professionals, but there's a few of our listeners have tweeted in as well. Ian Truman said, "I can't stand it. I don't know why there is this idea that every event has to be an all-star event with only the very best playing. I'm fine with ranking the events similar to tennis, the Masters 50 and 250, but the idea that any tournament not involving the stars is worthless is wrong." And Lee McGladry said, "Golf is all about the Cinderella stories. As good as it is to see the top players fight it out for trophies, it's great to see a player win who has fought tooth and nail just to survive on tour." And Manacero is almost the perfect example for that as well.
I mean, who added more to the golfing world last week, Matteo Manacero or Rory? Quite frankly, Rory's, we followed Rory last week. I love Rory, by the way. He's amazing. Got nothing but great views on Rory and his brilliance. I think at his best, he's far and away the best player in the world. He's the best player in the world. I still believe that. However, stars don't play well every week. Golf's a difficult game. It's some days the best players in the world, they just go around in 71 or 72 and it's a bit scrappy. And do you know what? There was more fun to be had watching someone else do something brilliant. And that's the way it is.
I think there's a reason why they have the Olympics every 4 years.
Yeah, it's true. I mentioned a few of the professional golfers. Richard Mansell, he said, "Good job they didn't do this when you were finishing outside the 100 on the PGA Tour." Talk about Wyndham Clark not very long ago. "Close shop idea is a terrible one. Remember where you came from. There's a lot of good players waiting to break through." And Chris Paisley, who former DP World Tour player, now on the Challenge Tour, "Inevitably, we all view things in a way that benefits us personally. So I understand the top players seeing it this way. I don't see how this would improve the product from a fans or sponsors perspective. Just makes it more of a close shop and hands even more cash to the top end."
There's loads of ways you could make it.
Okay, let's say. Sorry, I was going to interrupt. If Rory and Wyndham want to see the stars of tomorrow break through, how is that done?
They want to see the stars.
So they want to, like the guys from Corn Ferry Tour, from PJ Tour.
Well, it's already happening, isn't it? It's already happening there. There's now a progression directly from college in America onto the PGA. So Ludwig Oberg is on tour. He's got DP World. He's a Ryder Cup player in 6 months of turning pro. It's happening. It's already changed. Every year, 3 or 4 more college superstars come out and are already good enough. But there's a little bit of a lag to the replenishing of the tour. They want it to be quicker. I don't know. It'll happen soon enough.
Yeah, I think it can be quicker. I mean, I go back to when I started. When I got my first tour card, I was eligible through getting a tour card to play for 73% of the available prize fund on that tour that year. Fast forward 18 years or 15 years when I eventually lost it for the first time. And by this time, and I wasn't including major championships because you obviously weren't eligible way back there. And I don't even think I was including WGC events in there. But the WGC events came in there. The next time I got my tour card back, I was only eligible for 23% of that available prize fund. So I've lost the ability to play for 50% of what I played for, 15 years ago. And when you start talking about rankings and getting into the top 50 of, say, the FedEx Cup or the DP World Tour Championships or stuff like that, these closed shops don't help that. And that turnaround isn't as quick as it should be.
I remember this period of time when the WGCs came in and you thought it was going to be a closed shop. And I absolutely remember saying, well, no, we've just got to play better. The play better is a lazy argument. But to that pinnacle of the world of golf, it's not. You played in World Golf Championship events.
The point is that's how close things have got. You didn't listen to me. That's how close things have got. I told you 75% I was playing for in 1993. I was only able to play in 23%, and that wasn't including the WGCs. So then the WGCs come along. People get 30 grand for finishing last. Which, by the way, should you get paid for playing poorly? I don't no cut. I don't get that. That doesn't make sense.
Well, we're going to disagree.
You get that, and you get ranking points and stuff like that. Those people can, because they've qualified from the year before, those people can have a bad year, and that keeps them up.
That didn't happen all that often, Andrew. It really didn't. Loads of our players made their way into those WGCs, as they did from the Asian Tour. They were a real springboard to success, and you only had to play your way through your own tour. I thought it was actually a really, really good model for the world of golf that you could all get into these pinnacle of these events, and you played them, loads of them. I'm sure you will have done.
I played a few of them, but the point I'm making is you're talking about a quicker chain of events and people coming through, the youngsters coming through. You're saying it takes a long protracted time. It's taking longer by closing these doors and having these limited field events.
I would argue the guys who qualified for the PJ Tour through Q School, their starts this year are so limited. Yeah, they're like 3 or 4 starts this year.
Yeah, because Pavon's really struggled, hasn't he? It's a closed shop. Isn't it? It's really gone really closed. Now he's on the PJ Tour, played well. Sami Välimäki, all of a sudden, he's looking like keeping the pathways there. They're playing in signature events because they've played well. The pathway's there. Yeah, but the changeover's quick.
But look how it's developed. It used to be you get a tour card, you played against everybody. Now you get a tour card, you only play against 80%. The rest of them are playing the other events.
Well.
Can I just say, I love this bickering. Can I have more of this? Andrew's even got his back to David at the moment. That is just how angry he is with David.
Well, that's just normal.
Can I one more thing on this subject, and we'll move on. What Wyndham's saying, and a bit what Rory's saying, is this not very similar to what Liv is doing at the moment? Small fields, no cut. You get paid for last. What they want, is that not very similar to what's happening on Liv at the moment?
Well, of course, there's elements of that format, Liv format, that Rory's and the Wyndhams and would love. From a personal perspective, if there was a crystal ball and the world of golf knew that 48-man fields, just the stars playing against the stars all the time, is really going to float the boat of all the people that want to watch golf, and it comes down to eyeballs ultimately, doesn't it? If that is what it is. If that is what the world of golf wants, that as in the public, well, that's what it'll end up, isn't it? Because there's some pretty clever people in all the organisations. That's what the fans. I don't think that's what fans want. That's what they want, because they're going to earn a bunch more money rather more easily. 48-man field doesn't make it more competitive for Rory. 100-man field doesn't make it. Is it more cutthroat? Yeah, but that's not really affecting Rory, is it? Beat 144 guys. That's a tougher win than beating 50 guys. I want to prove you're the best guy. Beat more people.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when the first they were elevated events a couple of years ago, and Nick Taylor nearly had a chance of winning Phoenix, and Scottie Scheffler.
Right, yeah.
Scottie Scheffler won in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And some of the top players were upset that a guy of the perceived quality of Nick Taylor had an opportunity to earn that kind of money. And I'm going, congratulations, mate. You deserve that. Just because you're not in the top 20 in the world or whatever. And by the way, now the guy's gone on and he's won Phoenix.
Absolutely, and
this
Canada.
year. And
Canada
so he had that opportunity because he was allowed to play.
The beauty of golf as a sport has always been this. Don't care what you look like, where you come from, whatever. What did you score? Don't want to know this. I don't want to know what you made on the first, mate. I do not want to know what you made on the first. What was your score? 68. Great. Next best was 69. You won. That's the way it's always been. To get on every tour in the world, to do well in every tour, to get in the majors and to win the Open. It's just the scores that matters. That's the real meritocracy of golf. And get away from that, as Liv is starting to do, I believe, and all of a sudden it changes the fabric of what makes this sport really good. And it's just worth noting, I think, there might be a danger in there somewhere for the game of professional golf somewhere, and we need to be careful.
Last thing on this, Andrew.
I just think the interesting thing was the slightly disappointing thing from my point of view looking in at it is that the people in charge of the tours reacted to what had come along. They needed to be more proactive, and they needed to understand where the game was, what aspect it was, and what maybe needed to be changed. And I take my hat off actually to Keith Pelly, because he tried a whole bunch of different things. Not all of it worked, but at least he sort of tried to instill a bit of a bit more of interest, a bit more enthusiasm into some of the tour. But yes, to basically follow the lead of somebody else doesn't show an awful lot of foresight, in my opinion.
I thought this might bring about a bit of debate. This is what we want more of. Arguing, Coltart and Howell are arguing around the table. Please, more of that.
It's not the first time.
Okay, we're going to look ahead now to the players. Finally, everyone. David, first up, you played it 3 times. Can you remember your best result?
I don't think I made a cut, did I? Did I make a cut?
38th in 06.
Did I?
Yeah, you missed the cut the year before and a withdrawal the year after.
Yes.
In 07.
Yeah, that was. It never wasn't a tournament that ever. I never had any feel-good vibes. I'm surprised I finished 38. I've got to be honest with you, because I can't think of any good memories.
Really?
I think of lots of bad things happening.
Why is that? Is it the course? Is it the setup?
Well, 1 year I was obviously injured, so that's clearly because I withdrew. I remember the weather was bad 1 year.
Okay.
It's a tough course. When you go there, you really have to play well to get around that golf course. It's brilliant. I think it's the best purely man-made golf course I've ever played. It's not in a great spot, is it? It's a swamp that they've put a golf course on. So it's not, but they've done it so well. The actual intricacies of the test are just second to none. If you're actually making it with a bulldozer, which is what they've done, it's brilliant. And clearly when I turned up, most of the time it was just slightly beyond me.
What aspect of your game has to be top notch that week in the players?
Well, it's an easy answer to say all of it, but you have to. It's not a long golf course. But that's why it's so good, is that you can't just smash it and have a go if you want. You can't get around it like that. You have to play precise. You have to be on the fairways in the right iron play. The distances have to be good. You have to hold your nerve. The end's difficult. And there's water all the way in. You have to hit proper shots. If you bail out, it's just going to go wrong. So it tests absolutely everything. It's a brilliant tournament venue, and that's why it's such a brilliant event, because the canvas that they're playing on is so exceptional. Put 30,000 people around it, and the best players that the PGA Tour can muster. That's what makes it a brilliant event. And just not to hark back to what the world of golf needs, it needs more events like that on great golf courses with jeopardy. That's what's interesting to the fans.
But off that, and this was going to be my next question, Andrew. Full field event with a cut. As Howler said, the PGA Tour mustering the best players they can. Is this the tournament that's maybe suffered the most because of everything that's happened in professional golf in the last 12, 18 months?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Its tagline was the 5th major, and because players have headed over to live at this particular stage, you've clearly got quite a significant percentage of top quality golfers that are not there that certainly arguably would have been in through open championships with open fields and where they still can enter and stuff like that. Then I think unfortunately it has been hit pretty hard as a result of that. Certainly looking through looking through the players list when I was trying to work before I came in here. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that had they been in, certainly wouldn't have the opportunity. Now they've got the opportunity. Maybe they can make something of it, but they've got to make the cut first. You shouldn't get paid for missing the cut. Finishing last.
Is this, between both of you, is this the best final 3-hole stretch on tour around Sawgrass?
Yes. I can't think of a better 3 holes. I mean, it's brilliant, isn't it? Absolute drama all the way in.
I love 16. I think 16. Yeah. I know everyone talks about 17. 16's a brilliant par 5.
Yeah, I think it's a better course when it's set up tough.
Yeah.
With the thicker the rough, the more the I like that.
Well,
we had that discussion last week about how hard greens sometimes it's hard to get it right with the golf course. You can't paint it overnight, can you? You go for hard greens and then really thick rough, and then it's incredibly difficult. Yeah. You look for hard greens, you bring the rough down, and then the greens go soft because it rains. All of a sudden it gets a bit easy. It's not a perfect science, is it? But when they've got it just right, it's great. You can make 3 on 16, you can make 7. Anything can happen on 17, and then you've got to stand up the last and make that decision. Am I going to hit the draw with the 3-wood, get it on the fairway? You can make 6 in a heartbeat. 4's a really good score to close out your day.
Andrew, we're going to come to you first. Your favourite players' moment?
Yeah. Look, Sandy had won the Open at Royal St George's in 85, but for Europeans to go and win over there in the PGA Tour was fairly rare. He had one, I think it was Greensboro the week before, and he's got to the Players and ends up beating Jeff Sluman in a playoff. And just for a young Scot, just watching Sandy Lyle, an Open champion, go over there and succeed in America was quite inspiring, really inspiring. And Sandy, of course, one of the gentlemen of the game.
Yeah, it was great to see, as Andrew said, in a playoff against Jeff Sluman. And David, this was yours. Can't leave this one out, can we?
Well, you can't. You asked me what's my most memorable moment from... This is what comes to mind. This putt, peak Tiger Woods. Great putt, great commentary. It was Tiger doing what he did in this era, which was when he had to produce something amazing. He so often did. And, it's one of the most iconic putts in golf on one of the most iconic greens. It was a wonderful TV to watch, no doubt. If you like your golf, you had to like that.
And I went with Craig Perks last year. This gives me goosebumps. The finish on 16, 17, 18, eagle chip in, this birdie putt. It was brilliant commentary from our very own Ewan Murray as well. He said, finish the journey. It did on 17. And this comes round nicely, Andrew, to what we were talking about earlier about Cinderella Story.
Well, Cinderella Story, I mean, I don't know if anybody, certainly on this side of the pond, knew who Craig Perks was. It was just remarkable. And as you quite rightly said, this is one of these Cinderella stories that, if we're to believe some people nowadays, that's maybe something that they don't want to happen. A familiar face there, Stephen Ames, just like he got beaten when he got beaten 9 and 8 by Tiger Woods. But yeah, great story for Craig Perks.
I think he won again. I think that was his first and only win.
I think you're right. Yeah,
top of my head.
5-year exemption.
5-year exemption as well,
and then kind of struggled to live up to that again.
5-year exemption to lose more balls in the water.
And sure enough, I think he ended up into the broadcasting world as
he
well.
Did.
I think,
yeah, he is.
Craig,
yeah. Absolutely.
And but I think that's one of the great things about golf. Over the course of a year, the best player will prove that he's the best player. But on a weekly basis, it hasn't got to be the same guy all the time.
Yeah.
It's hard to stand out nowadays as well, by the way. They're also good when they're on it, and that's to do with equipment and all sorts. So you get 4 or 5 time a year winners. It's hard now.
I think that goes back to a great point I think that we are in general agreement with is that somebody on their day is capable of winning, obviously, but I mean that can go down as far as 156.
Yeah,
156th player on his day, the stars can align and he can come through, and it's kind of a shame if that's not going to happen, and maybe 156 with daylight issues and things like that, depending on where we play in the world, it's difficult to get a field of that size, and maybe certainly it's looking like reducing, but I don't think anything as drastic as what's been prescribed at the minute.
The Players has produced a few shock winners. I'm trying to think. I mean, Siwoo Kim was not a favourite when he won the Players. Yeah. Who's Tim, long putter, I've forgotten his surname.
Clark.
Tim Clark was like out the blue.
Yeah,
victory.
Fred Funk.
Funk.
Well, this is why it's such a great golf course, because if you can hit it straight, you can take on the guy who's 50 yards past you. Around this golf course, you can do that. You've got to play your best. You've got to hit the fairways if you're a short hitter, but you can do it. Manacero, take him there next week. Fancy him to do quite well. He's not going to be there. Maybe that's next year for him or the year after. But it's such a clever golf course because it's not advantageous to any type of player. It's the one that hits the fairway and the green.
While this comment maybe doesn't necessarily go in terms of growing the game, in terms of where we can take it, I do love the fact that we keep returning to these golf courses, because the person that's sitting in the armchair back home, if they've been watching it for several years, knows how the golf course can play, knows what's waiting for the players. They almost feel themselves like they've been members of that club, even though they've never hit any shots. And that's exciting as a viewer to watch, because you know that 17's coming up.
Yes.
Whereas when you're seeing a golf course for the first time on the telly, you've no relationship to it at all. And that's something I love. That's something that we're going to see, obviously, when we again return to Augusta, and you think 16, it's going to spin off the right-hand side, which is Sunday, and the shots at 12 and 13 and 50, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, everyone who watches gets to know what's good and what's not if you're a regular viewer. And you're right, if you go to a new course, no one's got a clue, have they? So
I'll give you that. Adds to the viewing.
Well done. They're friends again. Oh, that's no good. Right, picks. I'll give you a couple each if you want. Who wants to go first? Howler? Oh, Andrew's going to go first with his laptop in front of him.
Well, it's interesting because we'll never really get a chance to talk about Rory last week, did we?
No, we haven't spoke about Rory really.
Oh, really disappointing last week. Really, really disappointing in that. Before we go into the picks, I mean, I sort of did a little bit of working out. Obviously Rory wasn't playing well. Scottie Scheffler was, but from 150 yards in, Scheffler only missed 8 greens in the week. Rory missed twice as many.
It's amazing.
From inside 100 yards, Scheffler, and I'm not talking about pitching, I'm talking about approach shots. From inside 100 yards, Scheffler had 9 shots. He hit the green 100 times and only didn't get up and down twice. Whereas Rory had 7 shots inside. He missed the green 4 times and only get up and down 3 times, leaving so much out there. And shots from, well, in fact, Rory failed to get up and down 5 times from 7 approach shots inside 100 yards. And he went through a period in between round 2 and 3, 8 shots from 100 to 150 yards. He missed the green 7 times.
You can't do that round Sawgrass. You'll get found out.
Well, you can't do that if you're going to be anywhere near the top of the game. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know whether it's because, as he's as good as he can be, he's constantly seeing flags to go at, but he's not leaving himself a putt for a birdie. And he's just putting himself behind the 8 ball on that. And that's it's maybe not his sand wedges, but it's his wedges. 150, that's just a wedge for him. It's an awful lot for a guy of that quality. As a result of that, I don't see him doing anything this week. There was nothing there from last week that says to me that Rory's going to do everything this week. It's a bit unfair coming to me because I got a pick at the end of the show on Sundays who was going to be the first pick, I think, for winning this week. And I, unsurprisingly, went for the world's #1 Scottie Scheffler.
He's my first pick as well.
He's going to defend. Last year he was over 17 shots, strokes gained, tee to green. He's as confident now as I've ever seen him when he won 4 times a couple of years back with this hot putter. How on earth can somebody touch him?
So I wrote Carl Porter, a really good journalist on Twitter. He said last year at Sawgrass, he finished 48th in putting, which was about the field average.
Yeah.
And he beat everyone in the field apart from Hatton by 7.
Yeah.
And now he can putt.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you see past Scheffler? I've got someone else, but just to mix it up.
I'd sit down and watch the entirety this week. What story would I like to see? I'd either like to see a real underdog.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Your Craig Perks style story, great. Or total dominance by Scottie Scheffler.
Would you like to watch that?
I would also think that would be really good for the game.
You?
Yeah. Well, we remember we had 2 decades of a really dominant player.
Good point.
Golf was never better. It was brilliant. So, because then when someone does beat him, that's amazing. I think golf's better when it's got a standout star. Scottie's not got star material in terms of his persona, but his game is at the moment. So I'd quite another dominant win. I think would be quite cool.
Okay, well, he's playing like it at the moment. If he putts like last week, no one's going to be even close.
I just can't see it. I just can't see that. bizarre. I mean, it's
You can't see him putting like he did last week.
No, I can. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
absolutely, I can. I can see him putting like that for the next couple of months. Through the Masters. In fact, the last time he won the Arnold Palmer Invitation, I went on to win the Masters.
Mm-hmm.
He bullied the field. I mean, once he got in the lead last week, I think we discussed this off mic. Once he got in the lead last week, couldn't see anybody.
Inevitability.
It was.
It, yeah. Yeah.
It really was. You're trying to keep the viewers. Oh, anything can happen. Right here, right until the end. No, once his nose got in front, that was it.
It's very. Look, I've put Max Homer up against Scheffler just because his approach play is so ridiculous, Max Homer, and that has to be really good around Sawgrass. As you know, he was 8th last week as well. Max top 20s at Riv and Torrey Pines as well. Max is due a big one. He's such
struggled off the tee last week
a little bit. That's my only issue. I know that's true. Max did say Scottie Scheffler's the best ball strike he's ever seen. He said last week as well.
Lowry came off the golf course, and Lowry did really well because he didn't have his A game, but he came off the golf course last week, and he actually said, even if I had my A game, I don't think I can get close to that.
It's mad. Shane's playing very well, by the way. I should say.
Great.
Yes, back-to-back weeks. Just don't do it once.
2 top 4s.
Then to do it again was super. Yeah, no doubt about that. I like watching Shane.
He's brilliant, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's great. Any other Europeans we can put up maybe against
Pavon?
Pavon?
Yeah, there we go.
Why not? He's playing great.
Yeah, well, why not? Yeah, last week not quite so good for him last week, but we talked about him not playing at Riviera, which was a really, look at it straight away. It's a strange decision, isn't it? You've just made your way to the top of the game, and you're not playing in Tiger's signature event. Bit strange. However, you think more deeply about it. He's had a big change in his life this year. He's gone over to America. He's now settled. He knows he's going to be there 2, 3, 4 years, and he needs to sort his life out a little bit. He needs to just take a chill pill and to reassess a little bit, and I think that was quite wise of him actually. It would have just easier to have just said, "Oh, I'm tired, but I go to Riv." So he's thinking like a top player, and that's an imperative as well. He's still right up there in the FedEx Cup rankings, of course.
Yeah.
And I think it would be lovely to see him have a run at Sawgrass. It really would be first time there for him, so it won't be easy. But of all the other Europeans that spring to mind, off the cuff, he's the one with all the confidence.
Not a European that springs to mind. Minwoo Lee.
Yeah. God, I love watching him play.
One of the opening, he finished 6th in the Players last year. I think he's going out in one of my second penultimate.
He just had a poor Sunday, didn't he? I remember.
Just a poor Sunday.
So talented.
Yeah. Yeah, let him cook.
Yeah, let him cook, absolutely, yeah. I should say about Scheffler, no player's ever defended the Players' Championship. Everyone. So
write that down. I know it's for this week.
That's against him. But it is.
I knew that.
There we go. It was already there. He doesn't need to
I don't need to write it for you.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, luckily I'm not working with you this week.
We're going to wrap things up there. You two, thank you so much for coming in. I'm going to say, on behalf of myself and everyone else, I loved the fighting earlier on. Can we have more of that?
You've said that twice now.
I know. It's just great. It's really good to see.
You need to go for a spa now. Just like jacuzzi and just get away from you. Just breathe. And you can carry on working.
Andrew's going to stay in here until the first tee on Thursday. Both of you, thanks very much. Enjoy the week and enjoy the Players' Championship as well. It should be a cracker as ever. We'll see you next time.